Good morning, and welcome to Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation given by Chaplain Commissioner White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Heavenly Father, you have put this board in place to be the voice of the people and planning for outstanding communities here in Hillsborough County. So I pray that today you will give us, our staff, and our stakeholders guidance as we make these decisions. As always, Lord, I pray for our first responders and our community throughout our nation and world, and also the members of our armed forces. I pray that you will guide them, comfort them, and keep them safe each and every day. I ask for all these blessings in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner White. If you have a cell phone, please turn it off or silence it. We have a $25 minimum pay when you walk out the door, and today it's up to $50 since we have such a large crowd. Don't look at me so serious, ma'am. I'm just joking. Mr. Moretta, changes to the agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Moretta, Development Services Department, for the record. We do have several changes to the agenda. Starting with the first one, a request from Commissioner Kemp to remove consent item B15 regarding approval of Wellhead Hearing Master George Gramling. Second change is found on agenda, page 12, item E-03. The applicant has requested this item be continued to November 12th, 2019 Board of Commissioners Land Use Meeting starting at 9 a.m. That is for personal appearance 19-1203. We also have a condition that we need to speak to regarding item that's on the consent agenda. This is item B-28. Related to Plan Development 0432. It's speaking to the status of this case. When the board moves to approve the consent agenda, then we need to recognize that approval of this PD will be subject to either the amendment or the recension of the related DRI that will be dealt with by the board in a subsequent board meeting. They're not traveling together. The Plan Development is traveling ahead of that and is on consent. And I believe it's also the subject of interest for a lot of citizens that have showed up for this meeting.
Let me ask you a question. On that case, you said it has to travel the consent agenda. When we make a motion for the consent agenda, is this going to have to be part of that consent agenda when we read in, specifically identifying with item 28, B28? You follow
Yes,
me?
sir.
Okay.
Having said that, I'll move to the changes that are shown on the agenda, starting with A1. This application is being continued to November 12th Board of Commissioners meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item 2, rezoning PD 18-0996. Staff is requesting a continuance to the December 10th Board of Commissioners meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A3, personal appearance 19-0526. This application has been administratively withdrawn. Item A4, DRI 19-0841. This application is being continued by staff to the November 12th Board of Commissioners meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A5, DRI 19-1042. This application is out of order. It's being continued to the November 12th Board of Commissioners meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A6, vacating petition V18-0026. The petitioner is requesting a continuance of this item to the November 12th meeting starting at 9 a.m. Item A7, personal appearance 19-1204. The applicant has withdrawn this application. Item A8, personal appearance 19-1219. The applicant has withdrawn the application. Item A9, personal appearance 19-1220. The applicant has withdrawn this application. Item A10, vacating petition V18-0015. Staff is requesting continuance to the December 10th Board of Commissioners meeting starting at 9 a.m. And that concludes all the changes.
Move the changes.
There's a motion by Commissioner Merman, second by Commissioner White to move the changes to the agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Okay, on now on the consent agenda, we would need a motion to approve the consent agenda except for item B 15, and in your motion include the language that should be with item B 28. Am I correct? As a motion by Commissioner Merman, second by Commissioner Overman, to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item B 15 and with the language on item B 28. See no further discussion. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Anyone having a B item except B 15, your items have been approved. Any item except B 15, your items have been approved, including B 28. So I guess then, let's hold up. You're welcome. Okay, all right. We're adjourned. Please exit quietly, please. Please exit as quiet as you possibly can. Please exit as quiet as you possibly can. We still have a meeting to go through. Okay. Anyone that's left? They just got the message downstairs. Anyone who intends to present testimony, evidence, or otherwise be heard on any matter scheduled for consideration at today's meeting, please stand and raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay. We had B15 that was pulled by Commissioner Kemp. Can we take that item up now?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't used to the items being taken up after, but I'll take this up now. Let me pull this for a moment. This is the item concerning the appointment of the phosphate mining wellhead hearing master. And I saw this on consent, and I just pulled the land development code, just had it, as to how we make these appointments. I was a little taken aback when I saw it on consent and do not believe that that is the way that we should be doing these appointments in the future. Let me pull, I looked, and it's been apparently open for 3 months. The first thing I thought is that we should have notice at this meeting when one of these positions comes open, and it should be a decision of the board, but not a recommendation on consent. I'm looking here for a second for the advertisement, the single advertisement that happened on May 26. This is from the Tampa Bay Times in the jobs advertised column, and it has under government heading this hearing master job advertised. Unlike our other hearing masters, this requires an attorney to be the hearing master for the phosphate mining wellhead according to our requirements. And I'm just wondering, I have a question. First off, was this, we only in 3 months had 2 applications, including the person who is there at this time, who apparently has been in place for a decade from what I understand. But was this advertised any place but here in the Times?
No, Commissioners, that's where we've advertised that hearing officer position.
Because I really think it makes just basic sense to advertise it at the Florida Bar, for one. For two, we had a second applicant who I think appears to be incredibly well qualified and capable. But this comes to us in the form of a recommendation on consent from staff. And I really think it deserves discussion. I'd really like to have this appointment postponed, continued for 3 months or so, put it on the Florida bar. I think we really need to look at other possible applicants. I don't see where we are making any attempt in terms of minority applicants, women. And in fact, I believe our second applicant actually is a woman with a lot of extensive administrative experience. No, it's a man. I wasn't sure. But with extensive administrative experience and a really impressive resume. The other concern I have is when I looked up the recommended applicant has a history of their practice is in defense of corporate pollution. I mean, they have many. Their list of cases on their website is government contesting government, and I really think that we should, in corporate pollution cases, I really think that we should be looking for a hearing officer that has a more central, a history that's not so biased in one way or the other, but one that can make judgments whose business isn't on taking sides in this kind of these kinds of cases. So what I'd like to do is make a motion to keep this position open, to look for broad advertising of this. I also really want to look over, I think that we should have a limit, as they do in the courts. Being a lawyer, I can tell you in the courts that they change judges. Here in Hillsborough County, they change judges every few months from courtroom to courtroom in terms of relationships. You all know this. In terms of relationships developing so that they won't be biases and that people won't exercise those biases over time with the court attorneys. I think we need to be looking at 4 year at most, I'm thinking, in this rule, looking over this rule more closely and looking at 4-year limits and then trying to change out our hearing masters as well. So I'll make a motion at this time to open this up at least to continuing. I want to, in the future, look over this and our other hearing master regulations where we don't even require lawyers, which I think is really unwise. But I'd like to make a motion to continue this for 3 months, allow for it to be more broadly advertised, and for all the candidates to be brought back to the board, and that the board make a decision as we do on other committees.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Merman, by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner White. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you bring up great points. I seconded your motion, so you know I'm going to support it. Just to add some specificity for staff, I would like to move to amend your motion. So my motion to amend would be that it specifically be continued to the January land use meeting, that it be advertised again in the Tampa Bay Times, that it be advertised with the Florida Bar, per your suggestion, and that we post signs indicating that we're going to be taking this up at the corners of County Road 39 and State Road 674, County Road 672 and County Road 39, and Lithia Pinecrest Road and County Road 39.
There's an amendment by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Merman. Commissioner Smith, you recognize.
Thank you. I'm supportive of the motion, and the amendment, I think, is really wise to get this noticed in the areas of the county where it's probably likely to impact the most. And I agree, we need to, I think, look further into our processes for appointing zoning hearing masters in general and land use hearing officers of all kinds, and get, I think it's a good thing to consider time limits on that so that we get more rotation, as you say, and relationships don't get too cozy with the people that you're adjudicating.
Commissioner Overman, you recognize.
Thank you for bringing this up, but in both of your motion and your amendment. When we're looking for ways that we can allow people to move forward in making changes or making improvements to our community, I think it's critically important that we have a representative who's able to make the process simpler and decisive. And that's why I would support this, because I think it's critically important that we have someone that recognizes the balance between opportunity and also protecting our environment, especially with a particular position such as a zoning hearing. I too am curious about our process. We do have while this is an appointment, it doesn't seem to follow along the lines of other appointments that we've done in the past. So I'm curious of why or where the difference occurred. Can staff help with that one?
Commissioners, this is the same process that's prescribed by the Land Development Code, Board's Land Development Code. It's the process that's been consistently followed. If the board would like to make changes to that, we're certainly open to making changes. We'll take the direction from here today. I'm not sure of perhaps what you're speaking to is appointments that aren't governed by the Land Development Code or to other county boards. Is that
may be, yeah.
Is that my understanding of the
Yeah,
question
and that,
correctly?
I'm still trying to figure out land use, so. But it does seem as though, we get a recommendation, and yet we don't really understand the body of those that were considered in such a critically important position where the board is endorsing an individual to do this for a significant period of time. I think it would be helpful if we sort of review that and make sure that we're aware of all the candidates that might have been in the queue in order to make sure that we're very comfortable with whatever the recommendation is. That's all I'm suggesting. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
I just like to, I just really wanted to answer Commissioner Overman's statement, because yes, we do this I think we should be doing at least what we do for appointments at boards, and open up this process. And so that's, I suppose even when I'm here, that this has, I'm not sure how many have gone by on consent, but I wouldn't have necessarily thought we could change the process, but I think we really do moving forward. And I wanted this to kind of, when I saw this on the consent agenda, to be the first step moving forward.
Since we have a motion by Commissioner Kemp and an amendment by Commissioner White, I'm going to pass the gavel to Commissioner Merman, and I'm going to make an amendment to the amendment that we also advertise in the Florida Sentinel Bulletin and the La Gazette.
Oh, excellent.
That's my amendment to the amendment.
Second.
Okay, so we have an amendment to the amendment by Commissioner Miller, seconded by, who was the second? Commissioner Smith. Is there any further discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Okay, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Merman.
And now we are on, you're
Okay.
done.
Now we're on the amendment by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Merman. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing no discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
We're now on the amended motion by Commissioner Kemp. That was second by Commissioner White. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Now that we got through all that minutia. Mr. Moretta.
Thank you, Commissioners. That brings us up to item C1 and C2. These items are vacatings, and they will be presented by the Real Estate Department.
Good morning. Turn your mic on, ma'am. Turn your mic. It's a blue button down there. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Alicia Alvarez with the Geospatial and Land Acquisition Services. Item C1 today is Vacate V 19-0025. This petition is brought by CWVDE LLC and William Ryan's Home of Florida, Inc. They're wanting to vacate a portion of a deeded right-of-way known as 19th Avenue Northeast, abutting the plat of Ventana North faces 2A and B2, or 2B, sorry. Plat Book 134, page 11 of the Public Records of Hillsborough County. The request is made for the purpose of reconfiguring the lot lines for lots 22 and 23, Block 1 of the plat, and to be consistent with the adjacent lot lines. The proposed vacate area was previously utilized as a drainage sump, which ceased to operate due to the reconfiguration of the drainage system improvement as provided in the plat. The proposed vacated area is located along 19th Avenue Northeast and east of I-75, directly abutting lots 22 and 23, Block 1 of the Ventana North Phase 2A, 2B plat in Sun City Center. The petition was routed to the appropriate departments and the agencies, and there were no objections to the vacation of this easement. The staff recommends approval of this petition request.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address item C1? Anyone wishing to address item C1? To close the public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Merman, second by Commissioner Overman to approve item C1. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Mr. Beretta.
Item C2 will also be presented by the Real Estate Department staff.
Item C2 is vacate V190022. This petition is being brought by Victor F. Steinmans to vacate a portion of a 15-foot platted utility easement lying within Lot 1, Block 5 of the plat of Hillside Unit 7 as recorded in Plat Book 45, page 56 of the Public Records of Hillsborough County. This request is made for the purpose of resulting encroachments to a portion of a pool and pool enclosure. According to the petitioner, the encroachments were built into the portion of the utility easement by a previous owner in 1979. The petitioner purchased the property in 2002 and discovered the encroachments in 2017 when he looked for a permit to install a pool enclosure. The proposed vacate area is located north of Brandon Boulevard and southwest of Hill Point Way in Brandon. The petition was also routed to the appropriate departments and agencies, and there were no objections to the vacation of this easement. The staff is recommending approval of this petition request.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address item C2? Anyone wishing to address item C2? Motion by Commissioner Merman, second by Commissioner Overman to approve item C2. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you. Mr. Beretta.
Thank you, Commissioners. That brings us to item E2. E1. This is a public hearing, personal appearance 19-0778, involving a parcel that's located at the northeast quadrant of I-75 and Gibsonton Drive. The proposal is for a modification to a plan development dealing with the regulations in the Land Development Code that speak to location of audio boxes related to fast foods. And also, there's some transportation improvements that are being proposed for change. Mr. Israel Monsanto of our staff, who's the case planner, is going to walk you through the graphic to depict where these changes are occurring and how they're being spoken to in the staff report in terms of alternative requirements.
Israel Monsanto Development Services for the call box location. As soon as you get it on the overhead. This is the general location, proposed location for the call box, order box. The requirement is that it has to be at least 200 feet from residentially zoned properties. The closest residential property is a multifamily complex, which is 120 feet from the proposed location. However, the closest actual multifamily building is 325 feet. So staff review the waivers and the justifications and find that they are supportable because there are retention pond, driveways, parking lots between the proposed location and the multifamily buildings.
Okay. I take it, there is no applicant? Is there, want to come forth?
Charles White, Development Services staff. The second component of this is the transportation-related changes. There was a traffic signal in the original zoning at Alphi Preserve in this location. That signal is being moved now to Fern Hill. and it's lining up with an improvement that the county has with the CIP project. And the applicant's going to be constructing the extension of Fern Hill North. And when this is completed, both Alpine Preserve Parkway and Fern Hill will be dedicated to the county as public roadways. And the applicant will also be preserving a corridor, which is approximately 54 feet, which would accommodate access to the adjacent properties if they come in and develop.
Okay. Anything else from staff?
No, sir.
Okay. Applicant, did you want to say anything? You have 15 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Have you been sworn in?
I have not, I'm sorry.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. For the record, Michael Brooks, 100 North Tampa Street, 3575 here in downtown. The initial application was fairly simple. It was the waiver from the setback hall box. I think Mr. Santos did mention that the apartments are all part of the same PD, so this is a master plan type scenario. The distances are far in excess of what would otherwise be required. And then additionally, they'll be separated by a public right-of-way ultimately, which was the part that Charles mentioned. All of those transportation conditions were being driven by changes that happened after the PD was approved. Initially, the signal was intended to be to the west. DOT installed the signal at Fern Hill. And so while the conditions look extensive, the long and the short is that the westernmost access will be a controlled point, and the signal is now at Fern Hill. So I have with us Steve Henry, who is the traffic engineer. I know Mike Williams is in the audience, Jeremy Couch, the engineer, and we also have the owner. We can answer any questions across the to any of the issues if you have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify as a proponent? Anyone wishing to testify as a proponent? Anyone wishing to testify as an opponent? Anyone wishing to testify as an opponent? Applicant, waive your time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
Move the item.
Motion by Commissioner White, second by Commissioner Kemp to approve item E1. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Mr. Beretta.
Thank you, Commissioners. This takes us to item E2, personal appearance 19-1117. It's located in Fishhawk. It's south of Lithia Pinecrest. It's on the west side of Fishhawk Boulevard. It's dealing with a non-residential component of this planned development. It's proposing to entitle a specific parcel of land that has an existing building on it. That existing building was formerly a bank. The building is approximately 6,000 plus feet. They're proposing additional commercial entitlements to repurpose that building. They're proposing to increase the entitlement on that specific folio from 4,021 feet to 6,815 feet. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Applicant here. Come forth, sir. Have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have 15 minutes. Please state your name.
My name is Jason Kenny with Kenny Engineering, 2573 34th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida. I've read through the staff report and the recommendation. Everything seems exactly like we had proposed it to happen. The story, just like you explained, was this was a existing bank within the Fishhawk community. Due to some recent restructuring and some consolidation of some banks, this property was put up for sale. My client, AutoZone Stores and LLC, has purchased this land. What they want to do is demo off the bank and put up a new retail store there. The Fishhawk community was built out based on square footage for commercial uses. So what we're doing is we are requesting this particular parcel to be allowed to increase for the specific purpose of auto parts retail store. And what we've done to demonstrate that there's no negative impacts is we've done a traffic comparison showing that the auto parts store would have less traffic generation than a bank. In addition, which is not in your report, our proposed plan under review right now has less impervious area and just an overall net benefit to the land use of that parcel itself. So we don't really have anything else to say. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify as a proponent? anyone wishing to testify as a proponent? Anyone wishing to testify as an opponent? Any motion by Commissioner Merman, second by Commissioner Hagan to approve item E2. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Loretta.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to E4. E3 was continued. This personal appearance 19-1221. It's proposed on the southeast corner of 19th Avenue and Northeast 30th Street, located in the Ruskin and South Shore area. The proposal is to remove a screening requirement and replace that with an alternative screening requirement along 19th Avenue for a portion of the commercial track on G2. Michelle Heinrich of our staff is going to present a graphic that will indicate where that particular adjustment to the plan development is proposed. Michelle, can you go ahead and present that? Michelle is the case planner and has reviewed this.
Good morning, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. As you see here, the area that is subject to the request is this area shown here with a white line. This is tract G2, and what is currently proposed is, or what is currently required is a 30-foot wide buffer with type B screening, and that is required around tract G2 because that is approved for regional or corporate park and manufacturing type uses. The project that is going in right here, which is at the bottom corner here of the graphic, is a 7-Eleven. It's a retail establishment. And as this graphic shows, they will still provide the 30-foot wide buffer. They will also adhere to the tree plantings that are required for Type B and the Urban Scenic Corridor, but just not provide the Type A component of Type B screening, which is a 6-foot high fence. So this will still be provided, the 30-foot wide buffer with the tree plantings, and I'm available if you have any questions.
I see no questions. Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Michael Brooks, 100 North Tampa Street, 3575. In addition to what Ms. Heinrich said, the plantings that are on the approved construction plans include the scenic corridor plantings, which you've got a 30-foot section here. Even though this is an urban corridor, there's a 30-foot buffer provided. What that translates into is there one tree per 40 feet plus one canopy tree per 50 feet, in addition to what would otherwise be required. That's just the scenic corridor piece. As Ms. Heinrich said, the real reason was to remove the fence, which is both a visibility from a commercial, operational, but also from a SEPTED standard. It's really just not a safe condition, but it will look very nice.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify as a proponent? Any proponents? Anyone wishing to testify as an opponent? Applicant waives his time. Motion by Commissioner Merman, second by Commissioner Hagan to approve item E4. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Loretta.
Thank you, Commissioners. This brings us to Commissioner item J1.
Commissioner Smith, you recognize.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is the item we discussed at our last board meeting. Prior to that, at the September 10 land use meeting, the board directed staff to study and prepare amendments to the RP2 land use category. This item would do the same thing for the WVR2 category. And prior to that September 10 land use meeting, at the August 13 land use meeting, the board directed staff to review the employment and service requirements within the Wimauma Village Residential 2 land use category. That's the WVR2 land use category. This item would simply broaden that to allow us to look at things that are similar to those we are looking at in the RP2 category. WVR2 is really kind of a small subset of RP2. The Wimauma Community Plan took that RP2 areas that were inside the Wimauma Plan boundaries and tweaked them a little bit and turned them into a customized version of RP2 and named it WVR2. So now WVR2 is this separate land use category, but it's very similar to RP2. And the issues we're facing with them are very similar, so it makes sense to look at and deal with them both at the same time. And it just seems most efficient to deal with them both in tandem, since some of the considerations and ideas that may emerge as we review RP2 would be good ideas to implement in WVR2 at the same time. And where we come up with ideas to make RP2 better, it makes sense to make WVR2 better if we can, and keep them consistent where we can. So my motion is what is written in this agenda. I'll just read it into the record, and that is to direct the Planning Commission and Development Services Department staff to begin the study and preparation of amendments to the Wimauma Village Residential 2, WVR2, future land use category of the Future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan and the Wimauma Village Community Plan, and also consider preparation of implementing regulations in the Land Development Code. These amendments may include, but are not limited to, amendments regarding the employment and services requirements of the plan, which we've already directed, as well as other amendments that may be recommended by the Planning Commission and Development Services staff.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Overman, you recognize.
Thank you for bringing this forward, because I actually had this somewhat similar concept. It's like, how do we plan for this with a donut in the middle, or a hole in the donut, given what's going on? But the piece that I'm not seeing referenced here, which may be embedded in our comprehensive plan, is reference to this county's adoption of Vision Zero in our planning. One of the key issues with the last project that we addressed in this particular area that did address employment and service requirement challenges, the biggest problem I had with that approval is that there was no concept of, or at least no evidence of, the desire to make sure that when we approve a project that's supposed to support a business area, that there's no demand or requirement that Vision Zero policies for the connecting roads to that business area be adopted as part of the planning process. So as we move forward with our comprehensive plan requirements, I don't want to leave out, and I don't know if we need an amendment to this effect, but I don't want to leave out the concept that this county has made a commitment to Vision Zero. Vision Zero is road and transportation networks that allow people to, and bicycles and humans and people in cars, to get where they need to go without killing each other. And since this area tends to lack the infrastructure necessary to promote that, I think it's important that we recognize that Vision Zero needs to be embedded in our comprehensive planning. Not sure how to do that, and I'm not sure we need that as an amendment, but I think it's critically important that we don't forget that we've made a commitment to Vision Zero, and yet it's not in our land use. So I'm not sure we need an amendment, but I would like to make sure that when we address this planning, not only for WVR2, but also for the previous comprehensive plan, that it actually includes a moratorium for a bit, that we make sure that we take that into consideration in our planning going forward. By the way, we don't need a moratorium. We just need to run this. Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Merman, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And because I actually did the Vision Zero plan with the Planning Commission, and exactly where was it put? I have to go back and remember, but was it just, do you know? I mean, I would have thought it would have been embedded somewhere.
Turn your mic on, thank you. There you go.
Good morning, Melissa Zornita, Planning Commission. The Vision Zero plan was done in coordination with the MPO and has been embedded in their plans, but we have not
in the plan
adopted into the comprehensive plan yet.
So we should have done that.
Hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, so I'm glad we're going to take a look at that going forward. So we've got the RP2 thing going on. We're now doing the WVR2, and I am supportive of it, but all of a sudden, there's a lot going on in Wimauma. And they're going through revitalization. They also have a community plan. So how, maybe Melissa, you need to come back. I do not you've got RP2, WVR2, you've got community plan, and I mean, are these things just going to pile on top of each other? And what, I mean, is the WVR2 going to conflict with the community plan? And should that be a part of the motion to include the community plan as part of the study?
Yes, and I think if I understood what Commissioner Smith read correctly, it did include the community plan, and that is because the Wimauma Village 2 is a part of their community plan, and so the process to make amendments would be a little different than potentially the RP2, because we would need to go through the process to update to make a change to the community plan.
So the
And
community plan they have is named the Wimauma Village Community Plan. It's not just specific to the downtown area.
Right, it covers the downtown.
Covers everything.
As well as the
Okay.
area all the way out to the Wimauma Village.
Because usually community plans are
too.
broader than that. When I read this, I wasn't sure how much area that community plan really covered.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have a map, but it covers what you think of as downtown Wimauma, but
Okay.
also everything all the way outside the urban service area that is covered by the Wimauma Village 2 category, and that category is linked to the development in the downtown. So I think it's an opportunity to talk about some of the ideas that the Wimauma community, through their Wimauma Now effort, has been bringing forward, that they want to look at how the downtown can get revitalized, as you mentioned.
Okay, and will this also talk about the types of development that would be appropriate for the revitalization of the downtown area and where the downtown should go? Would that come out of this study also?
Their community plan already gives some guidance, but I think this would be an opportunity to look at that and refine that. Part of what looking at the employment and job assumptions will do, we'll be doing a real estate market analysis to take a look at whether or not those assumptions are correct and what really will work in Wimauma and in the RP2 area.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, it's all cleared up. We're all set to go.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate, first of all, the motion. I'm glad we're moving forward. I think it makes all the sense in the world to have this all done in a comprehensive way. It is our comprehensive plan, right? Secondly, I appreciate the further comments, but also in terms of the Vision Zero and having that to understand, because we have, the whole board adopts Vision Zero, the MPO adopts Vision Zero, and yet there's this other place where it's there. I mean, if we don't have it almost doesn't make sense. So I'm glad to, however that moves forward, I'll be watching to, however that moves forward, we need to have that move forward independent, I think, of this as a new issue, but we need to have that incorporated in our land development code, because it is extremely important as we move forward in how we develop further in the rest of the county, as well as the school safety and with the 2-mile zones around. So I'll also be looking at that and making sure. But anyway, just want to speak in support of the motion, in support of incorporating Vision Zero for the future development of the county.
Commissioner Smith, you're going to close on this?
Yes.
So I'm going to let Commissioner White speak, then I'll come back to you.
Sure.
Commissioner White, you recognize?
Thank you, and I just want to be incredibly cautious with the Vision Zero discussion, because I know the folks in Baum, for example, they want to be able to get places quickly in their automobile. They'd like to see 672 widened with the development pressure that's going on there. And Ms. Lundgren, I guess I'll look to you. You know, I don't think we're on solid legal footing to ultimately downplan these areas. So I think over time, you're still going to see some relatively intensive development in the area. And I think the majority of the folks that I've talked to have said that we understand that it's inevitable, but you know, let's make sure that 672 is in a state that we can, you know, travel it without the traffic congestion that we're currently experiencing. I mean, it's the same 2-lane substandard country road that it was when I was a kid, but look at all the development that you see along there now. So, and I know that Vision Zero doesn't always mean road diet, but I just, you know, want to just be cautious though in those discussions, because what I'm hearing from the community is that they would like to see the traffic congestion eased over time.
When you were a kid, that was a long time ago. Mr. Gormley.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, board members. We are working on a scope, and we've been working with the Planning Commission based on the board's prior direction with RP2. What I'd offer is that we can combine that scope with the scope for the Wimauma Village and bring back some timelines and present that to the board. We'd be looking to bring that to the November 6th meeting if that suits the board's pleasure.
Any objection to that? No objection. November meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you.
Hold on, Commissioner Smith.
That's good, that's fine.
Thank you, and I do appreciate your concerns. You know, it was really fascinating when Orlando decided to really address its Vision Zero challenges. They actually had a Vision Zero plan, where certain roads were collectors and arterials and identified and designed as such, and other roads that were designed for moving people in communities or between retail and communities was part of the overall plan. So roads were classified in such a way for certain purposes. To your residents or our residents, you know, in the Balm area, I understand their concerns, and obviously we do need to address the differences in how roads are utilized. But that's my whole point. When we don't have a Vision Zero plan for how we develop our transportation connectivities, whether that be, you know, either buses, walking, bicycles, or automobiles, freight, rail, any of those things, we're finding ourselves always playing catch up. I think one of the values of actually developing a Vision Zero plan within not only our comprehensive plan, but within our land code, gives us an opportunity to help alleviate some of the challenges we have in areas where there's little connectivity and collector and arterials have become way overburdened. So I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Commissioner Smith to close.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to highlight that I think this is a good place to be kicking off the Wimauma Community Plan, because I know that we've all been working with the Wimauma citizens, and they're anxious to get started on that. So Wimauma's community plan is interesting. They've got the downtown village inside the urban service area, and then they have the WVR2 sections outside, and they all will play together. But you know, as we're looking at RP2, it just makes sense to look at the WVR2 at the same time. I totally agree. Vision Zero should be safety of all modes of transportation should be one thing that we're looking at here. I think so many things might crop up that we don't need to put amendments, and then that might seem to limit, you know, but certainly staff direction and would be that we want to make sure that the streets as development occurs down there are safe for pedestrians, bicyclists, all modes of transportation. But of course, that doesn't mean necessarily restricting lanes on the highways, but in those places doing other measures, maybe off-road, greenway trails, and especially up in Balm, where some of that might really connect with the bicycle sculpture we're going to have soon, and the bicycle trails. So yes to all of it, and thank you.
Okay. Wimauma's getting a lot of attention. Let me say this. It's Wimauma has always had attention out there. If you were, I probably am the oldest one up here beside, no, I'm not gonna say that.
Yes, better.
Wimauma back in the day, on Easter Monday, a lot of people don't know this, was a holiday in Hillsborough County. And Wimauma was a home of really the minor league of black baseball. And they used to have baseball out there all day. And there was picnics and things along those lines when Wimauma was booming. And Wimauma died off. It became forgotten about community. And now it's coming back, and Commissioner White had basically said that we can't stop it from going out there. It's going to happen. But let's make sure we plan well for it out in that area. So I think this is the right thing to do. Wimauma died, it's coming back, and this is the right way to do it. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Kemp.
Mr.
Sorry,
Chair,
Commissioner Merman, you recognize.
I just have one quick question, and it's mainly to Commissioner White. So I know Baum has a community plan, and wouldn't it be, I know we're doing the RP2, and that's mainly geared around the Baum area.
Yeah, and my statement really pertained to RP2, and I know that WVR2 is really what's on the table.
Right, right, but Wimauma and Baum are really, they're just, it's a big area. And so I'm wondering if we shouldn't add the Baum community plan into this item.
Will that automatically happen as we're looking at RP2? I mean, I think it goes without saying that we would make sure that everything's consistent with the community plan, but if that needs to be an amendment today, we can do that.
In my discussions with Mr. Gormley, the RP2 actually goes in the Riverview Community Plan and the Baum Community
That's right,
Plan.
that's right. I wasn't thinking about that northern
But
portion.
certainly, we're setting up the process such that if amendments needed to happen to the Baum Community Plan or the Riverview Community Plan, we would be having the outreach such that we could have the involvement of the community in that if we needed to.
Yeah, just having my thumb on the pulse of my constituency, it just doesn't seem that development in the northern portions of the RP2 have been as contentious because they're against Fish Hawk and some other existing intensive residential development. But as you move south into Baum, it's a much different story. So, and folks, I mean, and I'll just state this for the record because I think it's important as we're working on both RP2 and WVR2. Baum is really desperately fighting to keep its identity.
Oh, it is. That's why I bring this up.
My understanding is that with the exception of P.O. boxes, that the Baum zip code for physical addresses has been eliminated. So if you live in Baum, you now have a Wimauma physical address. And that to some degree, that felt like a blow to the Baum community because, they've always been Baum. They've always had their own identity. Baum and Wimauma have always been two different communities. So, I would just ask Planning Commission staff and county staff to really think about an identity for the Baum community as we're working on really both RP2 and WVR2. So,
and if I could just close, I brought this up. There's so many details around both these actions that we're taking. And I think it's got to be clear to the public exactly what we're doing. They know they have community plans. They really don't understand acronyms, WVR and RP2. They don't get that. They know they have a community plan. They think that's what protects them. So I think the issue I want to make sure for Baum is, we're jumping in full force. Wimauma, it's going to be great. They're going to have, but we got to do something also similar for the Baum community because it has an identity. And you just brought up, I mean, they're going to have to widen 672. I mean, if DOT or if the MPO doesn't have it on the list, they should. And I hope that comes out of these plans. But I want to do everything I can to protect both areas, not just one over the other. Thank you.
Mr. White, recognize.
Thank you. And I believe 672 is a county road. However, we would still want to make sure that it's on the LRTP to make sure that we can seek federal funding in the event that that we want to have it widened. So I would ask again that Planning Commission staff and county staff think about 672 as we're going through this process. And if you need to engage the MPO as part of your work, I would strongly encourage you to do that.
Certainly.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Kemp. Seeing no further discussion, please record your vote.
Motion carried 6-0.
Mr. President, any other business coming for us today?
No other business, sir. We're done.
Anybody want to talk about the race? Anybody want to talk about the budget? We adjourn.